Huh? What was that? It was 2:00 a.m. in the morning, and I woke up due to some strange noises. I slowly opened my eyes and investigated the room. As I looked around, I saw this figure just standing there. It had pale skin, long black hair. It was wearing a purple checkered shirt, short black skirt, and long black socks. The part of it that really stood out were two white circles. They were the creature's eyes, and their bright whiteness stood out against the vast darkness that surrounded it. It was just staring at me. I couldn't speak. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. I closed my eyes shut, hoping it would just go away, but after a while I opened them again. It was still just standing there. I quickly grabbed my phone and took a picture, and then it suddenly jumped on top of me. I finally let out a scream, but it covered my mouth. I felt sleepy. And the last thing I saw was this girl holding a knife. The next morning I woke up thinking it was all just a dream, but a sharp pain in my left arm quickly grabbed my attention. My eyes widened in shock when I saw a scar on my arm. It was the letter W. I didn't tell anyone about this until now. I think I know who the girl was. It was my cousin. Nina was a 14-year-old girl who was addicted to those creepypasta stories. I was the closest thing you could call to a best friend to her. She would tell me everything. Well, most of it was just creepypasta stuff. Nina had a huge obsession with Slender Man and Jeff the Killer because she could relate to them. Nina was an abused child. Her parents got separated when she was only 7 years old, and now she lives with her mother. Nina was new in the high school life. Since grade school, Nina was a loner, but she had a crush on a guy named Jonathan, and she also had, well, for lack of a better word, an arch nemesis named Angela. And then, when Nina started reading creepypasta, she changed. She'd start talking to herself in an angry voice. She would tell me that she would see Jeff the Killer in her classroom, and that Slender Man would be following her around, and other crazy things. I just assumed it was one of those high school phases that you grow out of in a few days and look back on and laugh at yourself, but I don't know. It was the 1st of March. Nina went downstairs and ate her breakfast. It was just an ordinary day. The repeated honks of the school bus annoyed her, so she got on, sat down, and reminded herself that school was almost over. She looked out the window and she thought she saw a tall figure standing outside the bus. She let out a short scream, and all the students on the bus looked at her, laughing softly. As they arrived at school, she was just staring down at her feet, thinking. When suddenly, she bumped into someone. Nina looked around to see who she bumped into. I'm sorry, said Jonathan. Nina just hid from her embarrassment. She went to her classroom, and her arch nemesis was announcing something. Hey everyone, I'm holding a birthday party at 8 p.m. for, well, you know, me, said Angela. Nina just sighed. Angela looked over at Nina and said, Oh, Nina, don't tell me you're not coming. Fine, said Nina. Oh, did I mention Jonathan will be there? added Angela in a teasing manner. Nina just glared at her. She hated her so much. Fine, I'll be there, Nina said, with malice seeping in her tone. It was 8 p.m., and Nina was just trying to figure out what she should wear. She wanted to wear her best clothes to impress Jonathan. She looked deep in her closet, and she ended up spotting a purple checkered polo, a black frilly skirt, and long black socks. Perfect. Nina rushed to put on her outfit and headed down the stairs. She told her sister that she would be going now. And just as she was about to open the door, "Wait!" said her sister. "You should bring an umbrella, it's raining outside." Nina sighed and grabbed her black umbrella, and something else that she wanted to make sure her sister didn't see. A sharp knife. She knew there'd be a lot of jerks out there, so she wanted to bring the knife, just in case. Actually, she wasn't sure if she was bringing it for protection, or because something deep within her was eagerly awaiting a situation that would drive her to use it. As Nina was walking, the rain pitter-pattering on her dark umbrella, she suddenly felt sharp eyes boring into her shoulder. Nina just looked down at her feet and whispered to herself, "He's not there. He's not there. He's not there. He's not there," repeatedly. And then she looked behind her and was pleased to see that the street was empty. But all these things just kept popping into her mind like a broken record. She quickened her pace, and finally, she reached the demon Angela's house. She went inside, filled with an artificial confidence. "My, I can't believe he actually made it," Angela said as she let out a giggle. "Well, I'm here now, but I wish I wasn't," Nina said in a whisper. "Well, I hope you enjoy yourself anyways," said Angela. Nina didn't care about the party. All she cared about was finding Jonathan and getting closer to him. "Okay guys, it's time for a dance contest! Whoever wins will have a kiss on the cheek by me and Jonathan!" Angela said with a big grin on her face. Nina decided to join in, and as Nina was dancing, Angela decided it was time to enact her devious plan. "Hey, Nina, do you think you could give me a glass of lemonade, please?" Okay. Nina ran in the middle of the dance floor when the floor suddenly came up to meet her face. Nina yelled out, "Who tripped me?" Angela and her friends were laughing their heads off. Nina was so embarrassed. Angela walked over to their freshman table, grabbed the lemonade, and spilled it on Nina's head. "Oops." Nina was furious. "What the hell is wrong with you?" she screamed. "Oh, I'm sorry, just go up to the bathroom and clean yourself off," Angela said in a sarcastic way. Nina went upstairs, sullenly, and cleaned herself. She wanted to go home. She didn't want to allow Angela to get in any more punches at her, and as she started her descent downstairs, she suddenly remembered that the entire reason for her coming here was to find Jonathan. Nina searched everywhere, in the rooms, the garden, and even under the bed. And then, finally, she saw Jonathan go into the backyard. Nina secretly followed him. As she peeked at the backyard, her eyes widened in shock, seeing Jonathan and Angela making out in the backyard. Angela's heart sunk to her feet, and tears rolled down her cheeks. She had never been this upset in her whole life. But suddenly, against her will, Nina started to chuckle. She slowly went back inside the house, smiling to herself as tears continued to roll down her cheeks. She was in the middle of the dance floor when she just stared at her right side, and she saw all of them staring at her. Nina whispered, "Please, help me." And then she ran outside. Nina ran and ran while gripping the umbrella tight in her hands and the knife in her pocket. Nina ended up in a dark, abandoned place in her city. She didn't care where she was. All she cared about was getting out of that place. Suddenly, her foot caught on a tree root, and her face was once again met with the cold, unforgiving ground. She sat there, silently. The icy rain was pouring down her face along with her hot tears. And suddenly, she grabbed the knife and plunged it within herself 3 times. The first and second stabbed her stomach, while the third one hit directly at her heart. She wanted all of them to suffer. She wanted them to die. Nina started laughing uncontrollably. Her tears, the rain, and the blood all mixing into the street and the night. The news of Nina's suicide quickly spread throughout the whole town. Everyone was upset, and they couldn't believe that she was actually gone. Angela was the hardest hit of all, constantly blaming herself for Nina's death. That's when I started having dreams. It was a pitch black room, and Nina was just standing there, blood dripping from 3 wounds in her body. She would whisper 3 words. Blood, torture, death. And then I'd wake up. I started losing a lot of sleep because of it. And after months, it just started to fade away. And I started to move on. But now I think she's back. Several weeks ago, I found her in my room and got the scar on my arm. And the next day is when the death started. Started with Angela and Jonathan. Their bodies were found in an alley. Both of their tongues were cut out and shoved down each other's throats. They died of suffocation. Each one had a scar on their left arm. On Angela's arm was the letter I, and on Jonathan's arm was the letter C. 3 more people died after that. All of their bodies were mangled beyond recognition. The only things left were small pieces of flesh with letters carved into them. K, E, D. But they didn't stop there. They continued. Eventually, people who had nothing to do with Nina started dying. The murders kept getting more and more brutal. People who didn't even live in the town turned up dead. And then one day, they found a message scrawled in blood over the mangled corpse of a 4-year-old boy. There were 6 words that told me everything I needed to know. Help. I've become one of them.